Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another Legally Owned America video. I'm, of course, Paul Glasgow here. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you don't mind, please like, subscribe, and share the video if you don't mind. Hit that subscribe button down below, and if you hit the bell near it, you will actually get notified whenever I upload a video. I upload a video every single day. I would like to remind everybody that I am not a news channel. A lot of good news channels out there. That's not me. I consider myself an op-ed channel. I take news topics that are flavorful at that time, at that moment, and I dig deep into them to find corruption, root out corruption best I can, or at least provide truths out there. And I give my own spin and my own opinion about that. Again, an op-ed, if you will. Not necessarily news, but I deal directly with news topics. First, guys, go check out my friends, Attorneys on Retainer. I've told you guys before, don't trust an insurance company if you do carry a firearm on your side every single day for self-protection. Trust actual attorneys. That's what you get with Attorneys on Retainer. Whenever you call, you do not get Bob from India. You get an actual attorney. And that's a big deal because whenever your future is on the line because you had to draw your self-defense firearm, it's very important you talk to the right person to keep you, hopefully, out of jail. Sign up now with my friends over at Attorneys on Retainer for optimum protection in the unlikely event you have to draw your carry firearm. Use my code FTATF. Again, FTATF is my code, and you will receive $50 off of your individual sign-up fee or $25 off of your family plan sign-up fee. Attorneys on Retainer. Check them out. Did you guys see the movie Civil War? Not back in the day Civil War. I'm talking about futuristic, modern day Civil War. It's a movie that came out a year or so ago. There's a scene in it where they talk about Reuters, which is our topic of the day. This scene, for whatever reason, will forever be burned into your mind if you see the movie. It's it's an intense part of the movie, if you will.
We work for Reuters.
Reuters doesn't sound American.
Okay, it's a news agency.
I know what Reuters is.
Sir, okay. I'm just saying.
Just saying, just what?
We're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
My words exactly when it comes to sending money to all of these agencies worldwide who have always sought to do harm to the United States and its people and to mind F people. This is a bit of a troubling story today. I'm sure many of you heard about it. We've been looking through a lot of the news agencies out there, and pretty much all of them have received or continue to receive either funding from USAID or directly from the federal government, including the executive office of the president, we've found. So a lot of money going to these news agencies. Oddly enough, they don't seem to be coming from Republicans. In fact, if we want to talk about election fraud, election rigging, election interference, I think we have to trace a line back to a lot of these news agencies and media outlets and look at what kind of funding and money they were receiving from the federal government and start asking some very tough questions. I don't think we should dismiss it. I don't think we should say, well, the buck stops here. No more money for Reuters or AP or whomever. I think we should take that as a lead and chase it down and ask those tough questions. I want answers. I'm sure you guys do too, as taxpayers. We found some troubling stuff looking at Reuters, and you guys need to see this. First of all, using the website usaspending.gov, and I encourage you guys to go to it. Some of the things can be a little bit difficult to maneuver and to decipher in some cases. But I tell you what, you talk about citizen journalism, there's a lot of people across this great country and across the world actually that are accessing this database right now and looking at spending and asking questions, why did this go here? Just a real quick tip, if you go over here to the left-hand corner and you punch in a keyword, then just hit submit up at the top, it's usually going to give you a list like what you see populated right here. This one was quite easy. Now, if you look, these companies are all Reuters companies. In fact, Thomson Reuters is the parent company that owns Reuters. So these are all either the parent company or subsidiaries of it. This is page one. There are multiple pages, and look at the millions of dollars just on page one that's going to Reuters. That's a lot of money. But one of the things that has a lot of people trouble regarding Reuters based on these transactions is the wording that we're looking at here. Look at this line right here. Active social engineering defense, large-scale social deception. This is money paid to Reuters. You can see here that this money has gone up dramatically since September of 2018. big rise over those years. And again, I realize and totally understand this was under the Trump administration. One quick thing that I want to point out. During an agency's first, or let's say a candidate's first administration, the first 4 years, especially somebody like Donald Trump, who was not a politician and did not know how things worked. I imagine a lot of this stuff, especially this frivolous spending like this, there are a lot of these far-left wackos that are embedded in a lot of these organizations, and we've seen that. I mean, we've certainly seen a product of that over the last couple of weeks, that these people are getting run off, they quit, or whatever. I suspect that Donald Trump probably didn't even realize that half of this money out there was even earmarked and going out the door. Probably his head was spinning his first 4 years, and of course with the left hitting him with lawsuits and judges and all that, I think that probably did not help. The 4-year gap where Biden came into office probably was very helpful to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had a chance to take a breath and a chance to go, man, we have a lot of money going out the door. I never saw all of that money. Where is it? Now they know where to look, where before, too much going on at the same time. So I think this probably is helpful to Donald Trump. And I guess further proof that a lot of these wackos or far left-leaning nutbags is that you can look at who is screaming and crying the most right now. The people screaming and crying the most are the ones benefiting from this. They're not just upset at Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They're upset for several reasons, and I'll get more on that at the end of the video. But I think it's very obvious that a lot of these people were embedded in that administration, including when Donald Trump was there. And those changes were never made. So all of these left-leaning policies and wasteful spending continued on through every single Republican administration, including Donald Trump's, and quite frankly, the George W's and George H.W.'s. And those guys probably knew about this and were okay with it. I don't think Donald Trump knew this was going on, because he's hit it so hard this time. But this initiative with the social engineering defense and the large-scale social deception, it's actually, you look, there's an allocated $9.1 million pointing to it. So this is money that they expect to receive by November 29th. Now pay particular attention to the date up there, September 28th. That's a date that, September 28, 2018 to be more specific. That's a date that might mean something. If you do a search on these keywords on government-related websites, you're going to find a little bit of information, more specifically on the DARPA website. Yeah, I don't want to know a whole lot of the DARPA secrets, but here's apparently one of them that they seem to whitewash a little bit. Active Social Engineering Defense. So it is an actual usable word within the federal government. If you go down here and look, they discuss a little bit of what they're discussing. Over the past 40 years, our world has become increasingly connected. Blah, 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 blah. Talk about attacks on humans being called social engineering because they manipulate or engineer users into performing desired actions or divulging sensitive information. Essentially what they're talking about is, remember grandma gets the call saying that so-and-so is in prison or just been put in jail. I need you to wire me $1,500 right now. And the grandmother or grandpa, they target older people, obviously. They wire the scam artist $1,500 and find out later that the grandson is at his work. He's not in jail. Or the Nigerian prince that won a bunch of money, but he needs to send it to this beautiful 400-pound lady that he just met online so she can hold the money so that he can come to the United States and give her half or marry her, and they can share the money for the rest of their wonderful lives with the Nigerian prince. That's what they're talking about whenever they discuss social engineering, people falling for stuff, a plot that somebody else has engineered. So if I'm being fair, and I don't trust the federal government and I don't trust DARPA, but if I'm being fair, they do have this term already defined, and it seems to be, and you can do plenty of searches online, this is not a new term. They didn't just create this term yesterday in defense of what Reuters has been receiving to the tune of $9 million. And there's way more money that goes to Reuters, by the way, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, I'm sure. So anyway, this is a term that's currently in use. What I found that's not in use, and again, I don't trust their definition here anyway. I mean, it still seems like something, especially with DARPA being involved, still seems like something kind of nefarious. But when we use the term large-scale social deception, friends, I have no reason to believe it means anything other than what they're saying. Large-scale social deception. Remember, we're talking about a news agency here, Reuters. Large-scale social deception. They're not even hiding it and trying to create different wording for it. And they certainly don't have another government definition like they did for the social engineering. So social deception is what we're dealing with a bunch of money going to these other outlets, and I believe Reuters is a Canadian-owned and based outfit. Large-scale social deception also sounds like something that you would do if you were trying to manipulate people and what they think. And it seems to be completely unrelated, other than mind-effing people, to the Nigerian prince scams out there. So it's almost like they included it together to say, oh, this is all the same thing. Again, I could see a legitimate reason if you're trying to thwart this stuff out there with the Nigerian princes and all that. You're trying to identify it online and get rid of it before it becomes a problem, which they didn't do a very good job of it, because my in-laws have gotten phone calls, I'm sure many of you have, not to mention the slew of emails that we probably still get to this day regarding this same topic of somebody trying to scam you based on their newfound income that they managed to find, but somehow know they need you to hold the money for them while they go to the bank and make the transfer. So again, they're not applying this money very well. They haven't been very successful at thwarting those other efforts. But the large-scale social deception, so I understand the large scale and I guess social, but why would you use the word deception, which means to deceive people? And it doesn't say deception defense. It doesn't say guarding against deception. I find it really odd that they use that particular word. This is one that I would like to see somebody, because I've gone as far as I can at this point to actually figure out what they're meaning. There's no other place that I can dig. Now, when you talk about social deception, and I'm going to tie this together, what was one of the things that a large amount of the public, not just the United States, worldwide, were socially deceived? COVID, right? There was a lot of deception regarding COVID. How deadly it was, that was deceitful. They lied about that. What you could do to protect yourself from COVID, that was a lie. The vaccines, that was a lie. From the moment COVID was introduced to the world, nothing but lies. Let's use their word, deception, right? Remember, these payments started back in 2018. Remember, a lot of stuff with Fauci was happening back in 2018. They were developing through gain of function and everything else, all of this COVID crap, right? And they deceived us. For the most part, they deceived the general public. Remember that date that I said to put in the back of your mind and remember it? September 28th, 2018. You know what happened on September 27th, one day before this agreement was agreed upon? September 27th, 2018, mRNA 1273 vaccine patent landscape. I'll post the link to this website online, but on this date, September 27th, 2018, Moderna had a vaccine patent that they applied for nucleic acid vaccine. This ended up being the vaccine that many people took after they supposedly acquired the deadly COVID virus. Remember, Reuters was paid a lot of money for large-scale social deception. And Reuters put out a lot of articles supporting all of the deceptive information that came out. That's not my opinion. You guys know that. All this stuff has been debunked. The origin was debunked. The danger of it, how dangerous it was, how effective the virus was, how deadly it was, the vaccine effectiveness. Now the evils of the vaccine, the dangers of the vaccine. Now that's coming out. All this was lies. All this was deception. Reuters, being a media agency, now what were y'all doing during COVID? Most people were doing this. On their phones, reading about stuff regarding COVID or the vaccines. We're reading media outlets. I suspect there's going to be a dotted line to a whole lot of other media outlets, and you're probably going to see a spike during that time of money. We know the government was paying the likes of Facebook a hot load of money to promote their vaccine and their BS, right? In fact, they total opposite against us. They were putting us out of business and taking our stuff off the internet if we put anything even slightly that went against their deception. Because remember, we were putting the truth out. They were putting the lies out, the deception. But looking deeper at Reuters, look at all this money over the years. I look back, I think it went back as far as 2004 that I could see. Maybe prior to that, but 2004 was as early as I saw. This is the amounts of money that the federal government has paid Reuters over the years. Department of Defense at the very top, $62 million. Now remember, I told you guys the other day that once USAID was done with and they figured out this organization pilfered through and corrupted the, distribution of money like they've done and like they've proven. Remember how I said that this is probably a warm-up lap for Doge and Donald Trump and Elon? In other words, they're writing programs, they're writing code, they're trying to figure out things to look for, things that were deceptively coded. I'm going to use their word. Things that were deceptively coded to throw you off the trail. I told you that USAID was a warm-up lap for them. They knew there was corruption there. They knew they would find corruption. So they're simply going through the motions and figuring it out. So they recognize it on a larger scale, and maybe people who are a little bit more gifted at hiding it later on. And I mentioned that the two areas that I feel like they will find the most corruption will be the Department of Defense and Medicare. Look at Department of Defense just paying Reuters, a news agency, right? Reuters is a news agency. $62 million from the Department of Defense. You think there's any corruption there? You think there's any waste there? Again, Department of Defense, because God forbid you question defense spending, Department of Defense has never, ever passed an audit. And I think we're going to find out why. I think we're going to see more people bail out. I think we're going to find a lot of people who got rich off of this that are standing in these crowds with these idiots singing, making up rhymes, and really upset because somebody is looking into the money that they have misspent over the years, and they know darn well that the smartest of people, like they keep hammering Elon Musk, the smartest of people will find it. Because let's remember, a lot of these people are dumb. They're stupid people. They got into office by being smooth talkers or just a popularity contest. But no one ever claimed they were smart. Now they're dealing with one of the smartest men in the world, not the state, the city, or the country, the world. And they're crapping in their pants because they know this guy is very likely to figure out what their scam and their con was and to be able to trace it back to them. That's why they're mad. Further proof from what I said earlier that all these bad people are embedded in these administrations. It doesn't matter who's president, as long as these unelected bureaucrats are head of all these organizations, they spend the money however they want to. I found this a little bit odd when I pulled this graph up. Does anything stick out to you right here? I mean, if you look at the graph minus what I highlighted with the little box here, you kind of notice that this one bar spikes up more than double any other month or any other time of the year for any of these years over the last, almost 20 years? September of 2020. This is 2 months before the 2020 election. This is money spent to Reuters. Reuters got $15.5 million in September of 2020, 2 months before the election that Joe Biden allegedly won with 81 million votes. I call bullshit on that. I think this is a perfect hint, if you will, that something ain't right. Something happened in September 2020, and Reuters benefited from it. And we saw who won the election in November, just a couple of months after this massive transaction took place, to one news agency. Just one. That's not including the Facebooks. Remember, Twitter was owned by somebody else back then. All these other agencies out there that got money. One of them got $15 million in a month leading up to the election. And I can tell you right now that the press from Reuters heading into that election was not positive regarding Donald Trump, and certainly benefited the campaign of Joe Biden. So I bring it back to the Civil War clip that I showed you at the beginning of the video. These people that are out here dancing in the streets, politicians, again, the average everyday American, including Democrats, they ain't protesting about Elon finding this corruption. Who would be mad that anybody, I don't care who it is, who would be mad that they're finding corruption? Anyone who has paid a penny in taxes with the federal government ought to be upset about this. Oh, but not the ones sitting here yelling and singing and saying that they want to F Trump, right? These people aren't asking questions about the corruption and the misspending and the mismanagement of all this money. They know this has happened. I mean, obviously, some of them cashed checks, but they know this has happened. They've all looked the other way because they've all benefited. So they're not the least bit concerned with what Elon has found. It's the fact that Elon is looking that they're mad about. Going back to the Civil War clip, what kind of American would do that?
We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected your ass.
What kind of American are you?
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.